Discover the incredible journey of a billionaire who almost lost the one love he cherished most. Tom Lewis stood in front of the grand glass windows of his sprawling New Jersey mansion, staring out at the perfectly manicured lawn. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows that echoed his increasingly empty life. He was a self-made billionaire, a tech mogul who had risen from obscurity to immense wealth. Yet, behind every dollar and every accolade lay a heart weighed down by isolation and regret. His childhood sweetheart, Sarah, now felt more like a ghost in the very home they had built together. As he paced the opulent kitchen, filled with the aroma of an untouched gourmet meal, memories of their laughter together flooded back those simple, glorious days filled with adventurous dreams and deep conversations. But the further he climbed up the corporate ladder, the harder it became to look back. Each success seemed to push Sarah further away, as though ambition had erected an invisible wall between them. They were approaching their 10th wedding anniversary, a milestone marked with uncertainty rather than celebration. Sarah had grown distant, buried under the weight of unspoken words. When her father fell ill, it shook Tom to the core. This wasn't just a battle against a disease, it was a stark reminder of life beyond his wealth, confrontations with realities he had selectively ignored. The community where Sarah lived breathed resilience and gratitude, values that connected them all. Determined to bridge the heartbreaking divide, Tom decided to immerse himself in volunteer work at local community centers. He sought out those he once relied on during his rise, the very souls who believed in his potential back when he was just a dreamer with a tech idea and a few coins in his pocket. With each moment spent there, a flicker of hope ignited within him. Maybe, just maybe, he could rekindle their bond by extending love through action. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. But as Tom presented his newfound passion, Sarah remained elusive. She confronted him, tears glistening in her eyes, as the weight of years of neglect flooded out. "You don't get it, Tom," she cried. "You've traded ambition for love. I need you." Her voice broke, laying bare the truth of their fraying ties. As anger and anguish filled the room, they stumbled upon a painful revelation. A treasured family heirloom of Sarah's had been misplaced, leading to misunderstandings rooted in their earlier years. Facing the storm of emotions swirling around them, Tom stood on the precipice of change. Should he chase after more success, perhaps at the cost of love, or should he learn that true wealth lay in authentic connections and cherished relationships? The answers felt just out of reach, and uncertainty hung heavy in the air. The future of their love story remained unwritten, teetering on the edge of a revelation that could either tear them apart or pull them back into each other's arms. Would Tom remember the values that had once defined him? Or would he lose the most important person in his life forever? Tom couldn't shake the heaviness in his chest as he lingered in the kitchen. The taste of the gourmet meal he'd prepared for their anniversary felt bitter now. He remembered Sarah's laugh ringing through their home, filling every corner with warmth and joy. But now, it seemed those sounds had long faded, replaced by silence and uncertainty. The memories flickered past him like an old film reel. Each moment showcased the couple's dream of a bright future, intertwined with hope and possibility. But as time wore on, the film had become a montage of missed conversations and unfulfilled promises. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration boiling beneath the surface. He had become a stranger in his own home, his heart anchored to the past while his ambitions led him farther away. Later that night, Tom found himself lying awake, staring at the ceiling. The moonlight filtered through the window, casting shapes that danced across the walls. His thoughts raced. He needed to reach out to Sarah, to really connect with her, to make her feel seen again. But how? Words felt inadequate, like bandages on a wound that needed stitching. The following week, he decided to attend a community meeting at the center where he had volunteered. Over his time there, he had learned so much about resilience, about overcoming hardships. Stories from the people he met stirred something deep inside him, a realization that wealth meant little without love and community. That night, as he listened to a single mother share her struggles, Tom felt a familiar tug. It was calling him to action. "Sarah," he said, determination filling his voice when he returned home. "Let us help others together." Her upset eyes turned to him, skepticism mingling with a flicker of hope. "You really think that'll fix us? I want to rebuild what we had, Sarah. It all starts by sticking together." She stood there, a mix of hope and skepticism etched on her face. As the days turned into weeks, they gave their evenings to the center, rediscovering the spark that initially bonded them. They organized toy drives, cooked meals for the elderly, and facilitated workshops for teens. Through shared laughter and the bonds formed with community members, their connection began healing. One evening after a busy day, they sat side by side on the porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon. Sarah sighed, resting her head on Tom's shoulder. "I forgot how much I missed this," she said, her voice a whisper. Tom smiled, warmth flooding his chest. "Me too. We can't lose sight of what matters. It's not just about us. It's about everyone we touch." But just as the warmth of reconnection enveloped them, Sarah's phone buzzed ominously, pulling her attention. It was a message from her brother. Trouble had arisen with their father's health again, and they needed to rush home. Suddenly, the ground beneath them felt unsteady. Would this be another storm that tossed them apart? Would they face it together, or would distance reforge the chasm that had threatened to swallow them whole? The gravity of the moment pressed heavily on both of their hearts. As they exchanged worried glances, Tom realized the road ahead was going to be just as challenging as their past. But he knew in the depths of his heart that it was worth the fight. How could he support her while navigating the storm brewing on the horizon? Tom watched Sarah's expression shift, the spark of connection dimming as the reality of her family issues settled around them like a thick fog. He felt helpless, a sharp pang of fear echoing in his chest. Could he really be the support she needed amid the chaos? "Let me drive you," he offered, his voice steady but low. It felt right to be the one to shield her from the storm that threatened to upend their delicate balance. Her eyes softened, gratitude pooling in their depths, but there was a wariness too. "It's going to take a while. You should stay here," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, burdened by doubt and concern. "No. We're in this together, remember?" he urged, reaching out to grasp her hand. She hesitated before nodding slowly, surrendering to his insistence. As they made their way to the car, Tom felt a blend of dread and purpose. The drive would take them through familiar neighborhoods, both welcoming and fraught with memory, some warm like the sun on their faces, others cold like shadows creeping in. Each mile felt like a countdown, and he stole glances at Sarah, biting her lip, a telltale sign of her nerves. "Take a deep breath," he encouraged as they stopped at a red light. "Whatever happens, we can handle it together." Sarah half smiled, though her concern lingered like an uninvited guest. "My dad's not stable, Tom. I don't know what to expect." The honesty of her words lay heavy between them. Tom knew that sometimes, love meant sailing into uncharted waters, and he was ready to take the helm. They arrived at her childhood home, a modest two-story house nestled among towering trees. Tom could feel the weight of the past, laughter, arguments, and family dinners faded into the ether, leaving behind a distinct sense of nostalgia. As they walked inside, the air was thick with tension. Sarah's brother stood in the living room, his face taut with concern. The sight of him filled Tom with unease. He threw Sarah an encouraging glance, rooting for her as an invisible anchor. The sound of an anguished cough broke the momentary silence, and Sarah's face paled. "He's home," she murmured, and they exchanged a knowing look before heading towards the source of the commotion. In the dimly lit room, her father lay in bed, frail and pale, swallowed by the stark white sheets. Gone was the man who had once towered over her. This figure was a shadow of the past. For a moment, Sarah froze, her breath hitching in her throat. Tom stepped forward, instinctually reaching for her hand. "I'm here," he whispered. He could feel her trembling, just as he could feel the weight of their shared struggles. In that moment, love's power surged between them, affirming his commitment to weather the storm. As they stood there, the atmosphere shifted away from despair and toward an unbreakable bond. Yet, doubts loomed like dark clouds overhead. Would this challenge solidify their closeness, or would it expose fractures they still needed to confront? Just as a soft conversation started between her brother and her dad, a voice cut through, an unexpected visitor, someone from Sarah's past, entering the room with news that would change everything. Tom's heart raced. What would they learn? Would the news bring them together more, or serve as another wedge to drive them apart? The door swung open, and the atmosphere shifted. A figure stepped into the dim light, a woman with close-cropped hair and an assertive presence. Tom didn't recognize her, but the way Sarah's breath caught in her throat spoke volumes. There was history here, layered, and thick with unspoken words. "Sarah," the woman said, her voice a mix of concern and warmth. "I heard. I came as soon as I could." "Jess?" Sarah's voice cracked, familiar yet laced with disbelief. It took Tom a moment to connect the dots. Jess was the best friend Sarah had talked about, the one who left town after that difficult summer. "What are you doing here?" Sarah demanded, her eyes flickering with a swirl of emotions. Hurt, confusion, and maybe a hint of relief peeked through, but it was overshadowed by the storm brewing inside her. "I wanted to see you and your dad." Jess stepped into the room fully, adjusting her stance like she was preparing to handle something heavy. She looked between Sarah and her father, who was barely awake but seemed to sense the tension. Tom felt the air thicken. The past pressed down on them, each moment together weighted with memories both bright and strained. He squeezed Sarah's hand tighter, hoping it would ground her as memories slammed into her like waves against a shore. "It's been a while," Jess continued, her voice softer now. "I heard about everything. I'm so sorry, Sarah." A silence enveloped the room, stretching out like a fragile thread, ready to snap. Tom could see Sarah wrestling with her feelings, trying to hold on to the fragments of a friendship that had once meant everything. A friendship that had fractured and faded away. But Jess remained steadfast, a bridge across the chasm that had formed. "I know we didn't end on the best terms, but I want to be here for you. If you'll let me." Sarah opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Instead, her gaze darted to the floor. Tom could see the battle raging within her, years of hurt clashing with the deep-seated need for connection. Jess took a step forward, shoulders squared, as if she were more prepared for this meeting than Sarah was. "Whatever's happening, you don't have to go through it alone," Jess said, her voice earnest. "You've always had people who care about you. Don't push them away." Tom's heart raced as Sarah's expression softened just a little. He felt the heaviness in the air begin to lighten ever so slightly. Maybe this was the moment they needed to rebuild, not just for Sarah's sake, but for Jess as well. "Fine," Sarah finally said, her voice firm, though the tremor suggested vulnerability. "But we need to talk, really talk." They stood there, the three of them in the dim light of that room, grappling with past wounds and present trials. And just like that, the ties that had bound them apart were beginning to fray, perhaps to be woven into something new. Yet, doubt still lurked in the shadows. Could Jess truly jump back into Sarah's life at a time when everything was so fragile? Was she here to help, or simply to stir up old emotions? Tom felt his stomach churn. He wanted to protect Sarah, but he also recognized this might be a pivotal moment not just for Sarah, but for him as well. As the conversation began to unfurl, the subtle tension bounced around the room, hinting at revelations that awaited. But beneath it all, a bigger question loomed: could any of them truly face the truth of their tangled pasts while striving for an uncertain future? Just then, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen, wrenching the mood back to a harsh reality. What now? Tom thought, watching Sarah's eyes widen with dread as a sense of foreboding washed over him. They would have to confront not just the past, but whatever chaos awaited them next. The crash was jarring, like a thunderclap that shattered the fragile silence they had been trying to piece together. Tom glanced at Sarah, who looked as pale as the walls around them. Her eyes flashed with fear, and Tom instinctively stepped protectively in front of her. "Stay here," he whispered, his voice low but firm. He moved cautiously toward the kitchen, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. The tension in the air was thick, almost suffocating, as the weight of the unknown loomed over them. Jess followed close behind him, her expression a mix of concern and resolve. "What do you think it is?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Maybe just the dog or something falling." "I'll check," Tom replied, trying to sound braver than he felt. He pushed through the doorway, the cool tiles beneath his feet contrasting sharply with the heat that had built up in the living room. As he entered the kitchen, he was greeted by the sight of his dad's old chair tipped over and a pile of disheveled magazines scattered across the floor. But that wasn't all. The pantry door swung ajar like a warning sign, and a half-open cabinet revealed the remnants of something broken, a glass, its shards glinting like little stars amid the chaos. "Dad?" Tom called out, expecting to hear his voice suddenly roar back to life. Instead, an unsettling silence filled the air. Suddenly, a small whimper broke through from the corner of the room. Tom turned to find their golden retriever, Max, huddled beneath the table, his eyes wide with fright. Relief flooded Tom's veins. It was just an accident, one that could be cleaned up. He knelt down, reaching out a hand to soothe the trembling dog. "It's okay, buddy," he murmured, rubbing Max's ear as the dog leaned into him, seeking comfort. In that moment, as he glanced back towards the living room, he felt a flicker of something deeper stirring within him. It wasn't just fear he had to face, it was the fear of losing connection with those around him. Seconds stretched into feelings of eternity before Jess's voice broke through. "Everything all right?" "Yeah," just Tom took a deep breath, standing up straight to face her. Just Max being Max. He must have gotten spooked. He turned to look down at the mess. Jess stepped lightly into the kitchen, surveying the aftermath. "You should probably clean this up before someone gets hurt," she said, her tone shifting from concern to practicality. "I'll help." He nodded, grateful for her presence. Together they began to collect the shards and straighten the kitchen, but as they cleaned, Tom's thoughts spiraled back to Sarah. What she was feeling right now, caught in the remnants of their shattered friendship with Jess, must have been overwhelming. Meanwhile, Sarah hesitated at the doorway, her hand feeling around for stability. She was torn, feeling the connections of the past pulling against her like a tide. Tom caught her gaze, and the worry in the depths of her eyes struck him. "Sarah," he called gently, motioning her to join them. "It's okay. Just a little mess." With a deep breath, she moved forward, her steps tentative as if she balanced on the edge of a tightrope. "I want to help," she finally said softly. Tom saw the shimmer of resolve hardening in her eyes. This was no simple mess, this was a metaphor for their lives. They needed to confront the chaos, clean it up together. He could feel the air shifting in the room, the fragments of their past beginning to coalesce into something new. The sound of a distant clock ticking drew their attention back. Time was running out, and they couldn't afford to linger in uncertainty. Just then, a soft knock at the front door interrupted their moment. They all turned, eyes wide. Who could it be? Tom shot a glance at Sarah, and he noticed the flicker of fear return, mingling with something else, a glimmer of anticipation. "Do you want to get it, or should I?" But he couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a knock. It felt like the beginning of something that had been long awaited, or perhaps even dreaded. What if the next visitor held answers or more questions? "Let us see," Sarah whispered, her heart racing. She took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and moved towards the door, determination etched into her features. Tom watched her, both proud and anxious, as he realized that every step they took now mattered. A connection to their history was being remade, and he feared what the future knock might bring. As the door creaked open, a flurry of emotions swirled in the air. What awaited them on the other side? Would it be a chance at healing or another storm? Whatever it was, Tom couldn't help but feel that everything was about to change again. The door swung open slowly, revealing a figure standing on the doorstep. The late afternoon light cast a halo around a familiar silhouette. It was Rachel, their neighbor from down the street, and her sudden appearance took them all by surprise. "Hey! I hope I'm not interrupting anything," she trailed off, her smile faltering as she noticed the scattered magazines and the tipped-over chair. The joyful expression on her face faded into concern as she quickly assessed the chaos in the kitchen. Tom felt a knot in his stomach. Rachel had always been a friendly face, someone whose laughter could light up a dark day. But now wasn't the time for casual chatter. With all the emotions tangling in the air, his heart raced, questioning if she brought friend or foe. There was a little accident," Tom replied, trying to keep his voice steady while he motioned her to step inside. "Just cleaning up." "Is everyone okay?" Rachel asked, glancing between Tom, Jess, and Sarah, who lingered just behind Tom with her arms crossed protectively. "Yeah, Jess began, but her voice wavered. Tom could see the uncertainty creeping back into Sarah's expression. She was still reeling, caught somewhere between wanting to mend things and the pain of their fractured friendship. "Can I help?" Rachel offered, stepping fully into the house. She was all warmth and grace, wholly unaware of the emotional storm thrumming just beneath the surface. Tom and Jess shared glances, silently debating what to share. "It's just a little mess," Jess finally managed, though her tone lacked its usual assurance. Rachel knelt down, her fingers gently probing the shards of glass. "Looks like it's more than that," she said lightly, but the weight of her gaze on Sarah indicated she felt the tension radiating off them. "You guys want to talk about it?" Tom caught Sarah's eyes. The flicker of fear that had danced there moments ago was mingled now with a hint of vulnerability. She glanced at Rachel, then back at Tom, as if searching for guidance. "I think we just need some time," Sarah whispered, her voice barely above a hush. The sincerity in her tone hit Tom hard, a reminder of how fragile their connections had become. Rachel nodded, understanding but clearly not ready to leave things as they were. "Okay, but I'm always here if you need to talk. Just know, you're not alone." Her words washed over Tom like rain on parched ground. They were welcome but also daunting. He felt a tug of gratitude toward Rachel, but it was laced with shame for what they were going through. "Thanks, Rachel," he said, his voice barely carrying. "We'll be okay." As Rachel helped gather the scattered papers and books off the floor, Sarah finally took a step forward. "About what happened, the fight, I mean," she began hesitantly. "I didn't mean to." Max, sensing the tension, patted over and nudged Sarah's leg. She knelt down, her fingers running through his fur, grounding her in the moment. The simple act brought a small smile to her face, and Tom felt a stir of hope. "Maybe we can try again to talk later?" she asked, looking up at both Rachel and Tom, her resolve strengthening. "After we clean this up?" Tom nodded, a flicker of gratitude igniting in his chest. They were in this together, and perhaps, just perhaps, they might find a way back to what they had lost. They spent the next few minutes tidying the room in an uneasy silence, finding comfort in the mundane act of cleaning. Tom glanced over at Jess, who was quietly placing the magazines back into a neat pile. He could see that the weight of their earlier argument hadn't completely left her, but there was a flicker of resolve in her eyes too. What was brewing beneath the surface? Everyone had their battles, and just as Tom found himself swept back into a tide of his own introspection, Rachel broke the silence again. "Whenever you guys are ready, there's a great bakery in town with cookies that might help ease this chaos a bit," she said, throwing a lifeline to their situation. Tom and Sarah shared a glance. This was more than a simple offer of sweets, it was a chance to reconnect, to heal. "Maybe we could all go?" Tom suggested cautiously. Rachel beamed, but he noticed a tinge of unease in Sarah again. But just as they were about to respond, a loud crash echoed from outside, sending fresh jolts of alarm through the house. "What now?" Jess exclaimed, the air thickening with uncertainty. As they all stared toward the window, bracing for whatever storm was brewing in their lives, a new twist was about to unfold. What lay beyond the glass could alter everything. Would it bring them closer, or pull them further apart? The group instinctively huddled closer, their breaths suspended in anticipation. Tom's heart thudded in his chest, the sound mingling with the uneasy whisper of the wind outside. Rachel's smile had faded into a mask of concern, her eyes wide as she turned toward the window. "What was that?" she asked, the calmness in her voice ringing hollow against the backdrop of the shifting tension. Tom edged closer, peeking out through the smudged glass. The sun cast a sinking glow over the street, turning familiar sights into uncertain shapes. Just across the road, he saw a crumpled bike lying in a heap with a figure kneeling beside it. "It looks like someone had an accident," Tom said, his voice tight. "We should check it out." Without waiting for a response, Tom rushed to the door, guilt gnawing at him. He couldn't ignore a call for help. Jess hesitated for a moment, glancing back at Sarah, whose face was a tapestry of unease. "Are you sure?" Jess called after him, following closely. "What if it's just stay here?" "I'll be right back," Tom reassured her, as he stepped outside. The street felt charged, every sound amplified. Tom hurried toward the fallen bike, his stomach twisting with worry. As he approached, he realized it was young Josh, a kid from the neighborhood known for his relentless energy. Panic prickled at the edges of his mind. "Hey, Josh, are you okay?" Tom crouched down next to him. Josh winced, holding his knee, and Tom could see a small cut dripping blood. "It's just a scratch," Josh grimaced, but his eyes said otherwise. Rachel and Jess joined him at the scene, their concern palpable. "What happened?" Rachel knelt beside Tom, gently putting a hand on Josh's shoulder. "I lost control going downhill," Josh mumbled, looking embarrassed. "I thought I could catch the breeze, you know. Let's get you patched up." Tom's voice was steady now, a protective calm soothing the waves of chaos inside him. He glanced back toward the house. Sarah stood at the door, her expression tight, but there was a flicker of something, maybe relief. "I'll go grab a towel," Rachel offered, her heart clearly in the right place. Jess hovered near Josh, offering a soft smile. "You're brave for trying, just make sure to be careful next time, okay?" Josh's shoulders relaxed, his bravado returning as he gave a thumbs up. That small exchange ignited something inside Tom. Here they were, facing their personal storms, yet still finding ways to show kindness and connection. Could they somehow transfer this moment's warmth back to the turbulence within their group? As Rachel returned with a cloth, Tom wrapped it around Josh's knee gently, applying just enough pressure to stem the bleeding. "You should probably sit for a bit, don't want to push yourself too hard," he reminded the boy, giving him a gentle nudge. "Still a hero for tomorrow." Josh brightened, his spirit shining through despite the pain. Tom chuckled at that, though a twinge of urgency tugged at him as he caught Jess's eye. Her smile had returned, albeit faintly, but Sarah remained planted at the door, uncertainty etched on her face. When they all stepped back to allow Josh some space, Tom turned to see Sarah watching them. "You see? We're all here for each other. Even now, we can still reach out." Sarah looked between him, Jess, and Rachel. "I want to help," she finally said, stepping off the porch. Let's make sure he's okay. The shift in dynamics felt subtle but powerful. As Sarah joined the circle, there was a small but palpable sigh of relief from Tom. Perhaps they'd find their footing again, piece by piece. But as they crowded around Josh, engulfed in a flurry of concern and laughter slowly creeping back into their midst, a sudden roar of an approaching vehicle grabbed their attention. Pulling into the driveway was a car marked with an emblem Tom recognized his father's company logo. Heart sinking, dread pooling in the pit of his stomach, he turned to see the figure stepping out, and it wasn't just anyone. What did this mean for them all, and would it shatter the fragile truce they were just beginning to build? Tom's breath caught as he watched the familiar silhouette of his father emerge from the car. The weight of dread settled heavily on his chest. This was not just a visit, it was an omen. His father's stern face whispered of expectations, pressures that Tom had tried to escape. "Dad?" he called out, though the word felt foreign on his tongue, as if it belonged to another life. The group fell silent, the laughter replaced by a tautness that hummed in the air. His father took long strides toward them, his footsteps echoing in the stillness. What happened here? The question was clipped, eyes sweeping over the scene of chaos with practiced precision. Josh had a little accident on his bike, Tom explained, trying to keep his tone light, though the tightness in his throat made it harder to speak. "Let's make sure he gets to the hospital," his father replied, his voice devoid of the warmth Tom secretly craved. "You can't take chances. Injuries at this age can have more serious repercussions." "No, it's really not that bad," Josh piped up, trying to sound brave even as he winced at a particularly painful twinge. "I'll be fine. Just give me a band-aid and I'll be good as new." His father's gaze softened a fraction at Josh's resilience, but when he turned back to Tom, the familiar shadow of disappointment lingered. "And what were you doing outside? You were supposed to be studying." Tom's heart clocked a few hard beats. He was searching for words, but nothing came. He felt the eyes of Jess and Rachel on him, the weight of their concern mingling with his own apprehension. I just wanted to help," Tom finally managed, pushing through the fog of worry. "He needed us." "Help?" His father's tone dripped with incredulity. "What kind of help can you offer when you can't even manage your own responsibilities?" Josh shifted uncomfortably, the tension thickening as he took in Tom's father's anger. Rachel stepped forward, her voice steady. "Tom was just being responsible. He saw a kid in trouble, he did what anyone would do." "Exactly," Tom added, feeling a flicker of boldness. "It matters to care about people, even if it's not what's expected of me." The challenge hung there, almost tangible. Tom was surprised by his own strength, as if this moment was a turning point. His father's brow furrowed, eyebrows knitting together in confusion, but he remained silent. Sarah, witnessing the clash, broke in softly, "I think we all need to support each other. We've been through a lot lately." At her words, Tom felt a swell of something resembling hope, a bridge forming between the worlds that seemed so opposed. He glanced at Jess and Rachel, their eyes reflecting the weight they all carried. But his father turned away, eyes narrowing ever so slightly at Sarah's unexpected interruption. "That's enough." The finality in his voice snapped the fragile truce like a fragile twig underfoot. Tom wanted to scream, to shake his father and make him see what mattered beyond the confines of expectations and suits. "Can't you see we're trying to come together?" Tom's voice quivered slightly, a mix of desperation and indignation. "Just because you don't understand what we're going through doesn't mean it's not real." His father met his gaze, and for a single moment, the anger on his face flickered, replaced by a shadow of uncertainty. It opened a chasm of vulnerability between them that Tom had never dared to explore before. Before he could grasp at that vulnerability, a sudden shriek pierced the air, pulling everyone south-head toward the street. A woman's voice echoed in panic. "My baby! Where is he?" Tom's heart dropped. New worry surged through him, but this time it was deeper, more profound. The world just escalated from a mere accident to something far more daunting. What do we do? Jess whispered, eyes wide with horror as they quickly assimilated the new crisis unfolding before them. Tom's mind raced, adrenaline kicking in, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were all teetering on the edge of chaos. Would they be able to unite under another storm, or would this new challenge tear them apart even more? The moment was fragile. Everything depended on it. Tom's heart pounded in his chest, his instincts screaming for action. The moment hung heavy, uncertainty flooding the air. "We need to help her," he said, breaking into a sprint toward the panicked woman. "Tom! Wait!" Jess called after him, her voice rising above the chaotic scene. As Tom reached the street, he found the woman standing there, her eyes wild with fear. "My son. He was just right here." Her voice cracked, a mix of panic and desperation. He could see the tears pooling in her eyes, threatening to spill over. "Where did you see him last?" Tom asked, forcing himself to stay calm, to anchor her in the storm of her emotions. "He was riding his bike down the street. He was trying to go past the big oak tree." She pointed, her breath quickening. "I turned for just 1 second, and then he was gone." Tom's mind raced as he glanced back at his friends, who were now all gathering behind him, their faces a mixture of shock and concern. "Josh!" Rachel yelled, breaking away from the group. "We can't let him be alone, he might be scared." The moment of hesitation passed, everyone sprang into action. Tom felt the urgency suffuse his muscles, pushing him to act. He rallied them, "Let us split up. Jess, go with Sarah to check that way." He pointed down the street. "Rachel and I will head toward the park." There was no time for fear, just a shared sense of purpose driving them forward. As they spread out, Tom could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He had been so overwhelmed by his father's expectations, but now all that mattered was helping this stranger's son. Running, he scanned the surroundings, the rustling trees, the snippets of laughter from kids playing in the distance. Was the frightened boy laughing too? He thought of Josh, trying to shake away the twinge of pain in his side. "Josh!" he yelled, hoping his friend could somehow sense the need for unity here. "Tom! I found him!" Rachel's voice rang out, fierce with determination from 100 yards away. Tom raced toward her, heart racing as they converged. There, peeking timidly around the trunk of the oak tree, was a small boy, trembling. "Is that him?" Rachel asked, her voice low, almost reverent. Tom nodded, relief flooding through him. The boy's wide frightened eyes locked with his, and in that moment of recognition, Tom felt a swell of empathy. What would it feel like to be lost like that? Alone. "Hey buddy," Tom spoke softly, kneeling down to make himself less intimidating. "It's okay. Your mom is looking for you. Come on over." Slowly, cautiously, the boy stepped forward, his little bike resting on the grass at the base of the tree, as if it had abandoned him. Meanwhile, behind them, they could hear the frantic voice of the woman approaching. "Where is he?" she called, desperation lacing her words. "We got him," Rachel shouted back, warmth spilling over her face. The boy ran the final distance to his mother, cries of relief echoing as she swept him into her arms. "Oh, thank you. Thank you." She gasped between sobs, looking at Tom and Rachel with gratitude that felt almost overwhelming. But as the moment of relief washed over him, a different kind of weight descended. Tom glanced back toward his father, who now stood at the edge of the scene. The gulf between them felt deeper than ever, mixed with all their unspoken tensions. "Tom!" His father's voice sliced through the noise, but this time it wasn't anger, it was concern. "Are you okay?" Tom stared back in surprise. This wasn't the response he had expected. Could it be that the walls were finally starting to crumble? "Yeah, I'm okay," he replied, still caught in the whirlwind of emotions. But what about us? Just then, the sirens wailed in the distance, cutting through the newfound warmth, reminding him of the chaos that always lingered nearby. The next turning point loomed on the horizon. Would Tom and his father find a way to cross that chasm? Or would the burdens of expectation and fear pull them apart once more? As the distant sirens drew nearer, the air thickened with tension. The moment had been electrified, a flash of humanity connecting everyone, but the chaos wasn't finished with them yet. Tom could see the conflicted expression on his father's face and felt a flicker of something resembling hope. Perhaps this was the signal for a new beginning, a push toward understanding. Tom. Rachel's voice broke through his reverie, pulling him back to the present. The mother and son were together, their tears mingling with relief. He couldn't help but smile at the sight. It felt like a spark igniting something dormant within his own family. But as he turned back to his father, who now approached slowly, Tom couldn't shake the feeling of apprehension. What would this moment mean for them? "Dad," he started, taking a breath as he stood taller. "Maybe it's time we opened up to acknowledge what's really important." His father's gaze drifted from the happy reunion back to Tom, that period of silence stretching between them, heavy and loaded with years of unsaid things. "You're right," he said suddenly, his voice low yet filled with an intensity that drew everyone's focus. "I've been pushing my own expectations on you, haven't I?" The admission hung in the air, raw and unexpected, like a gust of wind sweeping through their tightly sealed house. Tom felt the weight lift slightly off his chest. "All I want is for you to see me as I am," he replied carefully, searching his father's eyes for sincerity. "I'm learning that connection matters more than success." His father looked thoughtful, and the atmosphere shifted, melding the old with new possibilities. "Then perhaps it's time I take a different approach too," he murmured, almost to himself. "Now more than ever, I see how deep love runs. It's right here." He gestured toward the reunion that had unfolded before them. The moment was cathartic. Community had brought them all together to confront not only the chaos of that day but the chaos inside their hearts. As the sirens faded into the background, Tom felt a mix of relief and determination. Connection wasn't just a fleeting dream, it was a tangible reality they could reach out and grasp. Back together in the yard, as the paramedics checked on Josh and his mother, Sarah stepped closer to Tom, squeezing his hand. "I'm proud of you for standing up to him," she said, her voice steady but soft. "You're not just a product of your past." "What about you, Sarah?" Tom replied softly, wanting to assure her. "You're taking steps too. We've both learned to speak up. It's a journey." She smiled, and the warmth of her gaze melted a layer of uncertainty that had lingered between them. Maybe now, in this unexpected moment of connection, they could truly begin to heal. The atmosphere shifted further as Jess joined them, flanked by Rachel. "You know," Jess said, her tone turning hopeful, "maybe we should start a community gathering after this, something to share thoughts, stories, and connection." The idea hung in the air, like the first few notes of a song that felt familiar. Tom saw Sarah nodding, her eyes lighting up with excitement. Yes. It could be a way to create a safe space to help people remember they're not alone. Tom couldn't believe how a simple moment of chaos transformed into hope. They were merging their lives once more, carving something meaningful from their shared experiences. "Let us do it," Tom said, his voice ringing with renewed purpose. "Let us build a foundation not just for us, but for the community as a whole." In that fleeting moment of determination, the paradigm shifted. No longer were they bound by fears rooted in the past. Instead, they leapt forward, fueled by the belief that healing would happen hand in hand. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the last golden rays, Tom reveled in a full heart. For the first time, he found depth in the realization that fighting for love through vulnerability, purpose, and connection was the only way forward. Everyone around him was a mirror, each one reflecting different aspects of love, facing struggles together. They were part of a tapestry that had been woven through trials and triumphs. As the evening drew closer, Tom felt an unbreakable bond tightening around them all. Their lives would intertwine, each experience they shared becoming a part of the fabric of their community. Looking across at Sarah, Jess, and even his father, he realized they were no longer bound by past grievances but by hope for the future. Maybe it was true wealth lay not in material success but in the depth of love and connection shared amongst one another. Because in the face of adversity, they had all found their way back home. Now was the time for action. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.